Hello, this is the tutorial. I'd like to talk a little bit how I clean up a project transform from Twinmotion into Unreal. The original file came in, I believe, is a little bit too washed out. A lot of reflections, a lot of very bright colors all over the place. So I will show you the typical process I use to make the lighting not too overwhelming. So first thing you want to do is check the material. For example, I see a really weird blue light here. By looking at the material, I notice this is something from Twinmotion. If you double click, you can actually see the values. This is coming from the Twinmotion library. There are some illuminations from emissive. In some case, this value is super high. And in that case, you want to go ahead and reduce the number. So this will actually help to eliminate some of the super glowing effects. Just check out the emissive values of your material. Another common issue I found out is from the glass. The glass sometimes could be super reflective. The trick part is if you don't really need to see too many reflections of the glass, you can just simply hide the glass. This is the glass, right? If I just hide it, it's gone. It still looks like a glass, but it's less, trouble with reflections. So this is something you can play with, it's just to hide your glass. Another trick I use is the M glass. This is the material come from the starter content material library. This glass is actually pretty good. So I sometimes use this glass to replace my original Twinmotion glass. This could be helpful. Get rid of the super high reflectivities. Another thing I usually do is to delete the volumetric cloud. You don't need that anymore. You can also delete the fog. You don't need the fog. You can also delete the skylight system. This is actually the default. When you have the default template, it has the something is called sun sky in your environment. Just go ahead delete, because we are doing this interior, right? We don't really need to see anything outdoor. So the easy way just to get rid of the skylight system. The fog could be useful sometimes. So if you do want to drag the fog back, you could have a fog here. The fog sometimes you're adding a little bit extra, bluish, but in this case, I don't really care too much. I'll get rid of the fog. Okay. Yeah, so this is about the lighting you don't need. Another one you really want to adjust is just search all the lights you have, right? If you feel like it's overwhelming, too many lights, just select them and then turn off, right? And see how much impact they have to your environment. So this could give you a good indicator which light is doing what. And also, when you select multiple lights, always pay attention to their intensity and attenuation. The attenuation should not be too large. So that means the light should not impact things too far away. So if I use F, I can see this light is only impact, 200 units away. So not too large, right? And you can play with the intensity as well. I usually make one light per room. So each room I will have, at least one light. You can see I duplicate multiple lights. And some lights you could turn off the shadow. If you don't need the shadow, burden the rendering, you can reduce the shadow. I just, uncheck. So here, I don't want the shadow from this light. I think this shadow is a little bit too weird. So in that case, just casting shadow, you can just turn it off. Okay, so it doesn't impact the environment. Yeah, the particle system. This is actually a Niagara system student brought in. I think it's pretty cool, but it's very, very bright, right, for sure. So I think this is called Niagara system RES, right? So this is Niagara system. Yeah, this one, if you browse, you can see this is the Niagara system. If I double click, I can see it's called cloud, and the rate is spawning 2000. You can reduce to 200 to reduce the burden of rendering. But also you can bouncing up the size, right? So if you think it's a little bit too small, I can do one, or I can reset, right? To make the particle a little bit larger, so you can see it. I don't know. So that's how you can adjust the shape of the particles. And let's see if the particle showed up. Well, that's probably a bit too big, but you got a point. You can reduce the I'll do default as 10. So you can reduce the number of, from particle rate, but also you can increase the size of the particle. So that's just make the environment less trouble when you have the particles. Anyway, I think I did this for multiple particles in the environment. You can see here. Yeah, I think this rate probably is too low, but yeah, let's just bouncing up. 200 is too low. Let's do 2,000. Yeah, I think the rate is probably okay. But if you see some particles like 10 million or something, you definitely want to reduce that. So see all the particles, I did the same logic. Same thing for the globe. I reduced the particle spawn rate right here to 5,000, but also I initiate the particle size to a bigger size. Right? So just some tricks you can play. Yeah, so that's about the particles. And another thing gonna impact your lighting is called post effects, post process. So this will be actually pretty tricky. So here, if I go to post again, right? So you have a bunch of things like, if I go to details, you have the bloom, right? You have auto exposure. You can play with these settings to see which one would give you a better result. In some case, you can even turn off the auto exposure to make the exposure consistent. The bloom, if it's too much, you can turn it off as well. So there's values you can control. All right. Anything else about the lighting? I think that's pretty much. Just make sure you examine all the lights, including this neon light. I think this is the from Twinmotion. I reduced the intensity. I think it was pretty high at the beginning. I reduced the attenuation radius to make them not super large. And also you can adjust the position, right? So they are in the right height. That's important. And you can also dial up these values. You have more pronounced neon light from this. There's also IES, I believe. Yeah, the IES lighting come from Twinmotion as well. Again, the same rule. You have to check their intensities, check their radius, right? Attenuation radius. Just make sure it's all reasonable. There's one common issue I found out is this light sometimes came in embedded in the ceiling. So you just maybe drag them down, make sure they are visible. And you can adjust the intensity. Yeah, so that's basically all the lighting you need to tweak until you got a good one. I think that's pretty much about what I have done for this project. Later I will upload the entire project again online so you can see these lighting examples. Yeah, just check the lighting one by one. I do want to mention is I already deleted the original directional light and the skylight. So here if I check light, right? I do not have that original sunlight, the directional light, because it's indoor. That makes sense to have it. And also for the skylight, I already got rid of it. You don't really need them. No, here's the skylight. It's not gonna help since this is indoor. Um, Even you have, let's say you have the directional light here, you have the sky atmosphere, right? So if I bring all of these three in, it's not impact anything. I just want to prove my concept, you know. So here even I turn on this, right? For indoor, there's no meaning to have the skylight. In fact, you see this kind of weird cloud gonna show up because it's trying to compensate some of the dark space. Yeah, so I would rather just get rid of sky atmosphere, skylight, right? So see that cloud is gone. All right, I hope this will be helpful for you to, oh yeah, this is pretty dark outside. This is the concourse. Yeah, maybe I will just simply put a light here outside. So it's not like super dark outside the concourse. Yeah, so let's just make it looks a little better in case if you want to go outside. Okay. Yeah, just pay attention to everything pure dark. Most likely you want to have a light there. Yeah, this one looks pretty nice. In the future, we probably want to bake the light, so the shadow will looks much nicer when you bake. Right, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, this Niagara I reduced the number of points. What is this? Trigger sphere. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, probably this is not necessary. Delete. Yeah, just make sure you clean up your file. Anything you don't need, get rid of them. Yeah, this is the probably the solar system. You can definitely see the number of polygons is pretty high. A number of points are pretty high. In that case, I will go to rate. I will reduce the number. Right, you see there's less, but you could make the points big uh, to compensate. So you can, it's fine. Yeah, it's just a cheaper way to render. Yeah, you got this sphere back, right? But they are not very burden the GPU. The glowing effect, oh, by the way, I should mention that is since we covered the Niagara, the sprite render control the material. So if I double click, this is basically the glowing material, make it bluish. So if you want to reduce, you can, change these numbers, or you can make this really bright by bouncing up the multiply for the emissive. So if I save, you're probably gonna see these Niagara glowing effects will be 10 times bigger. We'll see how that looks like. Yeah, it's super bright. Probably it's too bright. Let me see here. Yeah, that's very bright. Right, so that probably gonna not be the best practice, but you have the point. You can manipulate many things in Unreal, especially if you have Niagara, you can change the material. I think I will probably do just one. Yeah, this is probably not too bad. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, the blooming. Yeah, here is the emissive for particle. You can control the blooming. You can also do this in the post effects, right? So if I going back to main, I will docking this Niagara. So if you think, wow, that's bloom too much. So here I can do post, and here I can see this is a bloom. So if I turn off, you see the blooming is a little bit disappeared, right? So this is another way you can control. Intensity right now is 1, I can do 6. You see the blooming is probably too much, right? So maybe do, I don't know, 1 back. Yeah, but anyway, I think that's a lot of factors relate to Niagara. You can play by yourself. Um, yeah, this is definitely too bright. I feel like we have to go back and change this to a smaller value. Okay, multiply 0.5. Okay. All right, I think that's it. I hope this tutorial will be helpful for you to figure out how to optimize your environment. Just make sure the lighting looks natural. If your computer has a lot of burden to run, make sure you check the scalabilities. You can do auto to reduce. You can also do the resolution scale, drag it down, but auto will help you. Also, you can go here to change the screen percentage to a smaller value. So this could reduce the resolution of your viewport. Okay, I think that's it. There's another thing I think I should mention is about the reflectivities. By default, when you bring in a twin motion material in, it could be super reflective. This is usually controlled in this settings called reflections, and you have a roughness. Basically, if this is a 1, it's very rough. But if it's a 0, you see this is very transparent, right? So what this happen is, if you have a 0 roughness, this will be super shiny, like aluminum. And you can see some really weird ghost in that material. So in the reality, very rare you have like a 100% reflective material. It's like a mirror or very polished metal. But you want to be careful. So usually I will not choose 0, but always give a little bit, right? So it's reflective, but not super reflective. Another good practice I use is to use the materials from the material library in starter content. They are very good. You can definitely use them a lot. So just drag and replace. They do come in with controls on the roughness. So if you do want to make this one super shiny or reflective, you can reduce the roughness to 0.1. So in that case, you have the ground, it looks like a marble, will be very, very reflective. So you see the ground is like this fashion. Okay, so depends on the style you want to achieve. Just dial in these shaders and then you can play with the roughness. This is one control how much reflection you'll have. In general, I like the high reflections. They just make the thing looks very dynamic, but not 100% reflective. So you can play with these values. All right, I think that's basically everything I like to cover today. Oh, by the way, I think the shadow we already covered. Like for some lights, if you think the shadow looks really weird, in some situation you want to turn off the shadow. So the way to do that is in the light, if you search shadow, right, then you have the option to turn on, turn off. Okay, so this is all there. Okay, I think this is hopefully I think this will help you to achieve a very nice, beautiful environment. Has realistic material. And this one's glowed too much, but that's okay. This part is very nice. Yeah, the wall looks good. This spot probably is due to this one is too close to the ceiling, right? So if you drag down a little bit, it got rid of that issue. All right. Yeah, just make sure you adjust the lighting. So this one is a neon light, come from the original twin motion. So it came in as a cylindrical shape. Okay. All right, I think that's it.